G'day, g'day. Paint red here. That was impressive, wasn't it? Well, that's dead. Because Dihi have decided to fix Marked for Death. Some of them are fixes, but they've gone way past the point of fixing it, and they've nerfed it into the ground to the point where Marked for Death is no longer worth using it. Do not subsume it. Do not infuse it onto your Warframes. It is not worth using. It's just garbage now. So the first thing they did was they fixed the mods applying to the Marked for Death damage portion dealt in the AoE. Fine fix. Number 2, fix base damage using health shield damage dealt and not capped at the health dealt damage target had before. E.g., enemy with 5 health gets hit by 100 damage. 100 damage is shared in AoE. It should just be 5. Thing number 3, remove critical chance from Marked for Death AoE. And 4, capped damage multiplied to 75% and normalized damage mults. And 5, fix Marked for Death arcane trickery equipped, triggering invisibility almost every time because each enemy hit basically procced it. Point 1, point 3, 4, 5, they're all fine. They're fixes. Point number 2, that's a nerf. That's not a fix, that's a nerf. Because you've just killed that one thing is just completely kills the ability. Because if an enemy only has 5 health, and that's the max damage that you can do to the rest of the enemies around you, it's you just can't do any damage. This Marked for Death was already difficult to use in a team. It is going to be impossible to use it in a team now, because teammates are going to be doing damage, which is going to reduce the damage that you can do with your Marked for Death. Any enemy that isn't at full health you're not going to want to do this to, because it's not going to cause an explosion that's going to do any damage to anything. And they say here, we want people to go around prioritizing heavy gunners to do the AoE clears. If I target a heavy gunner and do the explosion, and there's another heavy gunner or a bombard, they're not going to die. If I then go and target that heavy bombard, my Marked for Death explosion is going to do even less damage. If I do it again to the bombard that survived from the fucking first one and the second one, it's going to do even less damage. Because the health is going down. All these other fixes fix this problem. We would have been prioritizing heavy gunners and bombards if you had have kept everything else where it was. If you had have fixed everything else except for this second pit. Marked for Death in a build. Alright, I'm going to go to this simulator camera and show you how this works in the build. So here we are in the sim, and to get this Marked for Death Fatal Teleport stuff to work, we need to get rid of all the power strength and put on as much range as possible. Because at 280% range we still only get 28 meters. And we have to use an augment. And we have to cast 2 abilities to do it. The fact that we have to cast 2 abilities to do it, just that alone makes this just impossible to use, or almost impossible to use in multiplayer, especially if there's someone like a Saren or a Mesa on the team, because they will just delete things before you can get a chance to like fatal teleport your mark for death targets. And this is, I'm talking about this before the nerf. Pre-nerf, these were problems for this shit already. Was just because of the fact that it's a two ability combo, is that he was having trouble if there was like high DPS frames in the team, such as Saren and Mesa. Another thing is, this is completely line of sight. So that's 28 meters. Like, this thing does big, impressive red numbers and stuff, but it only hits things that are in line of sight. Whereas Saren, she presses 4 and everything that is in range is dead. Whether she can see it or not. And Ashe has nothing else to do. Nothing else better to do. Ashe's skills are fucking garbage. Like, Blade Storm is fucking trash. Teleport, it's an okay movement skill. Smokescreen invisibility is the only thing that he would do. Like, this is his build before Helminth was introduced. You would stack the fuck out of duration and then put everything that could help melee onto him. You'd fucking put the entire Gladiator set, Swift Momentum and Rising Storm on there. Just because Rising Storm gives you an extra 10 seconds of combo duration. So that you could drop Drifting Contact off of your melee weapon for something else. And then you'd have Swift Momentum to give you more combo duration. And because of the 30 heavy attack wind-up speed, you could fucking build a hybrid weapon with him. Which means that you could have a hybrid heavy attack weapon. Any weapon could be a hybrid heavy attack weapon. Fast heavy attack weapon with him. And everything would have like this ridiculous crit chance on it. That's all you would do, was just turn invisible and melee the fuck out of everything, because that's all he can do. Shuriken stripping armor is it strips 1 or 2 guys' armor that are in front of you that you're targeted at. This is fucking yay. Woo. You know, a fucking Nucore can do that to like 5 or 6 enemies, even more, in seconds. And you have to do is sweep it around the screen. And we don't want to strip armor anymore. Like, being at 10 armor procs is actually better than fucking fully stripping armor now. Because now you can put a corrosive onto a weapon and have 75% more damage. And ignore 75% of the remaining armor after you've already stripped it. So like, Mark for Death actually gave him something to do. And there are other frames that can use it. Like Excal. Here's his build for it. He drops a ton of power strength for it. Because it needs the range. And that top range is just the range that the cast is. That's the bottom range that we care about. The explosion damage range. The thing about this is, Excal doesn't want it. Excal already does plenty of fucking damage. And for Excal to use it, he has to radio blind, then mark the target, and then press square to do a finisher. So for Excal, it's actually 3 things that you have to do to get this fucking ability combo to work together. And like I was saying for Ash, that means that your mark for target death is probably fucking killed by a Mesa or a Saren before you've done it. Plus, it's actually slower for fucking Xcal to do that rather than just doing this all the time. Because this is what Xcal does. It's all he needs to do. It does a fuck ton of damage. The other frames that are going to suffer, the only other frame that is going to suffer is probably Ivara. Because now she's not going to have a fucking AoE clear. So the way this is going to work is if simulate these guys. And I'm console right, so this stuff hasn't actually happened yet for me. I need energy. So what they're changing is that if I hit this guy, or if actually, what they're changing is if I hit this guy with these viral procs, I will annihilate this guy. But because these viral procs are actually doing a little bit of damage as well, because it's not noticeable, but it is a tiny bit of damage, this is actually reducing the damage that I'm going to do to all the rest of these guys. Just by this pet, just by virtue of being here, is reducing my potential damage against all these other dudes. Because this guy is losing health. You have a Siren or an Ember or something into you that just does damage over time to like massive groups of enemies. And like, there's no point in casting this. Because Saren's just going to walk in and press 4 and they're all going to die. You're going to be like, mark for death! And then it's dead. Before you've even done that. Before you even completed that, it's probably dead. I've had it happen to me. I was in ESO testing it to see if it was any good in ESO with other people. And Sarens were just, there was a Saren and a Mesa and they were just killing everything before I could do my combo. And I've seen it said that like it's not terrible because like if you marked for death a dude and then do like a heavy attack, it'll still bleed the other dudes. And yeah, okay, cool, but I could just like not put mark for death on Ash and put something like, oh, you know, lava onto Ash with the exact same build, because Ash doesn't fucking need anything. He's got like 4 free fucking mod space. Oh well, I can like heavy attack the whole lot of them. So why the fuck would I bother with mark for death? This costs less energy, it gets all the enemies in one spot. Mark for death is dead. It is completely nerfed into the ground. There is no point in using it. Do not grind for it. Do not put this on your frame. Do not even bother. It's just been dumpstered by DE. And you know the funny thing is, a 4-man squad with a fucking good setup and a Banshee in the squad will fucking hit damage cap over and over again, doing far more than this build that I use does. Like, we don't really wish DE would learn and understand their own game. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I'm over talking about it now. So, yeah. Don't put Mark for Death on any of your frames. It's not worth using. This was way too much. Like, yeah, I agree that it probably did need some, like, fixing with the mods double stacking and that sort of stuff. And it being able to crit the enemies, because, like, I get that you want it to do reduced damage to the other enemies, but the fact that we can't overkill an enemy and have that kill the enemies around it, because you're restricting us to the health of whatever that enemy has, is just garbage. It kills this ability. Anyway, I'm gonna go enjoy the twilights of this fucking ability until it gets nerfed on console. I feel sorry for you PC people who have already had it nerfed. Thank you for watching. Bye.